welcome to another episode of Butler's Babble. And boy, do we have an amazing show for you today. I know I say that every episode, but we get some amazing guests on here. What can you say? And I've been looking forward to this one. She actually was able to come up. About a month early. We actually had her planned actually from our October show, but some changes happened, and she was willing to move up another month. So I appreciate that. A little background about her. Oh, before we get into that, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Just remember, we are coming to you live through StreamYard. So if you get a chance, if you want to make comments in the comment section, by all means, we will see them. But if you have a chance, go to StreamYard.com slash forward slash Facebook and give them permission to use your name. That way, when we do make a comment, we can see who it is talking to us. But getting back to our guest here, we have Michelle, who is an international speaker, certified visibility coach, content marketing strategist. She's the author of a book, Perfectly Normal, and an immigrant story of making it in America. And she's got a whole bunch of different titles on here that we'll definitely get to a little bit later on. You've seen her on TV, you've seen her everywhere, and we're going to get her whole story here. So instead of me babbling on, why don't we bring Michelle on? So we're going to bring Michelle Kuei. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, can I just say right off the back, I love your intro music. It's like feels so epic. I'm telling you that because I truly believe that every single one of us, when we walk into the room, there's an epic music that's playing in our background. And I'm really like, right now I'm having a goosebump.
I love it. Yeah, when I first started my first episode, there was a lot of intangibles I want to do. And one thing I've always been a fan of sci-fi stuff, things like that. So stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, or lately like stuff like Game of Thrones and things like that. And so when I was looking for a theme song, I was thinking of Game of Thrones in the back of my mind. I don't know if you've ever seen the show, but I was thinking Game of Thrones, Vikings. I want something epic like that, instrumental, something like that. And I think I found a keeper. So.
Definitely keep this one. And I'm a big fan of
Well,
Game
thank
of
you.
Thrones.
There you go. So, but no, I'm glad to have you on the show. You're coming to us live, I guess, from California. So I appreciate it. You're 3 hours behind us. So,
So earlier, so the audience doesn't know this, but John reached out to me. He's like, how are you feeling? I feel great. I'm running on a baseline steroids all the time.
I love it because I always like to make sure everybody's ready to go and ready to. Some people get nervous and that. We've had some guests that are not used to being in front of the camera, so they get a little nervous. But yeah, you're like a ball of fire. I remember about a month ago when you and I went online to just sort of talk about the show and what we wanted to do. And yeah, we could have went on for hours, of course, just on that interview. So I'm glad to have you here, and I think you got an amazing story that's going to help to inspire people. As everybody knows, this show is to try and empower, inspire, motivate people to get out of that little rut that we've especially gotten into in the last 2 years, if not for most of our life, but in the last 2 years especially, it's been really rough on a lot of people. Mental health is down, and so we all get a little depressed, and we all go through these little changes, and it's a way of how do we get out of that. And I think your story is a way that can motivate people with that. So why don't we get to know a bit more about Michelle herself? Why don't you take us all the way back to little teeny Michelle when she was first born, and give us a little history of Michelle and her family and where you're from and things like that.
I would say that as a child, I'm a very simple child. My mind is very straightforward. I don't have logic. I don't have good logic. Like when you ask me to put pieces of puzzle together, I have so much trouble doing that. Like I couldn't figure out the puzzle. So I am a very simple minded person when it comes to like how do you do things in life. I remember, so I grew up in Taiwan. I was born in Taiwan. I came from a military family. So my dad had been in the military. He was a teacher at a high school teaching military stuff. So those of you who's not familiar with the Taiwan how it works is that we go through actually military training. They want all the boys to go through that military training. So my dad was a teacher at high school teaching military stuff. So I grew up in a very disciplined family. Waking up in the morning, we always bring our bowl to our mouth. It's never you go down and you eat next to your plate or a bowl. So I grew up very disciplined. I have a very set schedule. I was really good student. I make sure all my homework are being done. I even pack my book bag very strategically. every time when I'm ready to go back to school. There's a lot of I'm a very excuse my language, but I'm a very anal child.
Yeah. Totally different than when I was growing up. I was the type that was, what we got to go. I got school in an hour, and this is due, and I'm sitting there on at the walking to school, basically doing my homework and things like that, trying to get it done. So,
No, not me. I'm always ahead of time. I'm the teacher's pet all the time. I'm always in front of the classroom. I'm the first one raising my hand.
yeah, and a little bit of comment because I actually live in a town here in Ontario, Canada, which is a military town. Um, so we get a lot of military people here, so they can probably relate with you in that way also. Now, what about like your dad was military and all that? What about your mom?
My mom was a stay-home mom, so
Okay.
she was a very traditional like housewife. She take care of us. She pick us up from the school. She cook for us. And one thing I would say that really set me apart into my what I do now as a storyteller is that she took us to watch movie when we were
Okay.
little. And I remember I was 5, and the first movie that I saw was The Exorcist. Like who?
And how old were you? Do you think around there?
5. I was
Five.
5.
So you're 5 years old going to see The Exorcist.
Yeah, I went to see The Exorcist. And so I have this huge passion towards horror movie. I love horror movie. Like any type of horror movie you can name out there, I probably have
Yeah.
already seen it.
And I was like that as a kid. I didn't mind the horror movies. As I got older, I don't mind. I'm more the thriller type horror, not the gory stuff, but more the thriller kind of stuff.
I like them all. I can tell you all these like zombie movies, zombie TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead. Any type of like dead people, I'm like
Yep.
on it. I'm on it.
That's awesome. You get along with my wife very well. She loves her horror movies.
We need to have a movie date.
There you go. So, and then you have some siblings too?
Yeah, so I have a brother, my older brother, and then a younger sister.
Okay.
So that makes me the middle child. You can tell now
Nice.
why, yeah, I'm the
Yeah,
way that I am. Weird.
exactly. And
Different. I would say
exactly.
different.
And was your older brother more the protective type, always looking after his siblings?
He I would say that, as a child when I was growing up, he tend to be like kind of out there. I
Okay.
would hear so his bedroom is next to mine, and a lot of time I would hear him like in the middle of the night trying to like operate a pilot. He imagine like my family is very creative. So we have this imaginary thing that's going on. And so in the middle of the night you would hear like all these sounds coming out from his bedroom, right? He's trying to fly and operate the airplane. And that's the kind of brother I have growing up. He now I would say that after the accident, um, I felt a little bit distance from him. And
Okay.
I didn't know that I could ask for help. I didn't
Yeah.
know that he was there for me. And
Mm,
I didn't learn all of this till
yeah.
much later into my
Okay.
adult life when I started to learn more about who I am, getting hold
Definitely.
of what I was missing.
And I think that's like everybody. When we get older, we start looking back at how we were when we were back then, and the things we've learned. Like the old song, "If I only knew then what I know now," type of thing. So I
Yeah.
definitely know. And what about your younger sibling?
My sister is not a very creative person.
Yeah.
I say that she's probably gonna watch this live. She's on my Facebook. She's not a very creative person, and in the sense that she's not very artsy. So I remember growing up, I was the one who's helping her doing a lot of art projects.
Okay.
So I help her design these hats, design different boxes, creative stuff in her art class. I was the one who's always know how to operate the paintbrush. So I'm the more creative type in the family. She's more of um like it almost feels like she's taking care of me a lot of time. And I think I wrote this in the book where I was telling her to do a lot of stuff. I took her for granted. I took her existence to be granted.
Okay.
She's always around.
Yep.
She's my only sister, and I had that impression that she's there. She's always going to be there for me.
Hmm.
And so when she got married, I kind of felt that empty nester
Yeah.
syndrome, kind
Yep.
of because now
Kind of
she's
betrayed. It's like she's just left.
yes. And it was shocking to me because I never saw her that way. I never
Hmm.
realized how much I was taking her for granted. I was always, hey, go do this for me and go do that for me. And she's always there caring for me.
Yes.
And it almost made me feel ashamed
Hmm.
when she on her wedding I was delivering the speech because my parents doesn't speak English much, and so I was the one who's delivering that speech. And I remember sharing with the audience that I was not the best sister ever to her. You know, growing up, when you have a sister, typically you watch that sister to put the makeup on, how to go out, how to impress the boys. I was never that sister for her. I didn't show her how to be pretty, how to talk to boys, how to, do a lot of things that normally a girl, an older sister would share with a younger sibling.
Hmm.
I wasn't the best sister for her. And it's making me teary because
Yeah.
she has done so much for me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the other way, what have I done for her? It makes me feel almost ashamed
Yeah, but
of.
you gotta remember, we're all young and we all do things like that. Now we're older and we're there. You're there for her now, and I think she looks at it probably that way too. And I'm sure uh, um, she appreciates everything you do for her now. I'm sure. But she
I,
probably, I bet you any money, you're harder on yourself about the way you were to her than she probably is.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we'll talk about this later. When I hike up to the Machu Picchu, she was the
Hmm.
first one. She was the first one to share my video. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe my sister did this."
That's a proud. Yeah, you're the big sister. Exactly. I have two daughters, and the younger one's always looking up to the bigger sisters.
Yeah.
I can see that. So now you're growing up in Taiwan, and were you like, I could see the energy you have now, and you said you were the middle child, you always were like, what were you like in those first 10 years in Taiwan? Like, were you athletic in school, or were you always doing sports? Like, were you just a bull and everybody's like, will you calm down? Like, what did you do? Were you in sports actively, or?
I was not in sports very actively. I was active but not in sports. I was active in the way that I was delivering a lot of speeches. So
Mm,
I'm really good at publicity. I'm totally okay standing on the stage and I'm not afraid of camera. I you pass me the mic and I would be on there talking to the entire audience, no problem. So I enroll myself into multiple speech contests. And I remember my dad would stay up late, write my speech. So he used to write all my speeches
okay.
before in that first 10 years of my life. So starting from second grade all the way to fifth grade, I participated in multiple speech contests.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it was I delivered the speech in Mandarin, but
Mm-hmm.
still that feeling of being in front of the audience and having that energy coming from the audience that,
Yep.
oh my gosh, she's delivering an empowering speech. That's
Yep.
amazing. I could never get onto the stage at that point. That felt good. That
Awesome.
actually feed on that little ego of mine.
Yep.
Oh, this is something powerful that I can
Yep.
do. This is my superpower.
And we all need that, because I know as a child I was the opposite. I hated getting up in front of the classroom and having to do a poem or a speech or something. I would be like clamming up. I'm getting all sweaty in the palms, and my mouth would be like just like cotton in my mouth. And that, it wasn't until later on in life that I was able to bring myself out of my shell. Now look at me. I'm broadcasting live to all over the world. So I mean, yeah, it took me a while. So then we you talk about how you're a good student, you're into speeches, you're able to talk in front of people, you're having an awesome time, and then you turn 11 years old and life changes.
Completely changed the way that I had imagined who I would become.
Like it
I
would
thought,
anybody.
right. And I think so what happened to the accident was I was coming off from school one day. I was waiting for my mom to pick me up. So when I saw her, I was trying to cross the street. And by the time I got to the middle of the street, I heard all these chaos that was going on around me. And I didn't know what's going on.
Mm,
So me was standing there. And by the time all these details came from the witnesses that was at the scene. And so what I heard was that I was in the middle of the street and there was a car that was coming fast towards me that hit me and pushes me about 100 feet away. And by the time I woke up, I was in the hospital already.
mm,
So there's a huge gap from the time that I was hit to the time of how I got to the hospital. I don't remember any of it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the big challenge I had when I was writing my book, because my editor kept coming back to me and saying, Michelle, you got to give people more detail. You got to give people more detail. And I almost think that, sometimes these accidents happen and they happen in such a way that it erases a good portion of your memory that
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to remember. What you do need to remember is the before and the after experience.
Yeah, and I
How
hear that a lot. It's a matter of your brain automatically any trauma wants to block it out so that you're not going to dwell on it and you're not going to bring up bad memories and that. And the only reason I say that is because what you're describing is my daughter about a year and a half ago when she got hit by a car. And a lot of it is a similar type of thing. I was on the other side though. I was the parent that gets the phone call saying, "You might want to come here." So I can imagine what you're going through. Now you wake up in the hospital. You're like, "What happened? Why am I here?"
I was confused, I was in pain, and when I looked down, they already wrapped me with a plaster, so I couldn't move. I
Mm-hmm.
was bound, I was trapped, and I looked down. It was all the way down to my ankle. So my basically
Mm-hmm.
my whole lower body was immobile,
Okay.
and I'm laying there and I'm thinking, how did I get here? I
Yeah.
recognize my parents were talking to the doctor. There's people surrounding me. And how did I get there? I had no recollection.
Mm-hmm.
I do
And for an 11
remember
year old, that's got to be scary.
it was scary, but it was also good that it only happened at 11 years old, because when you get older, you have more understanding. You are able to grasp
Mm-hmm.
of the consequences. But when you're 11, there's no the realistic consequences that you can grasp. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it means to
Yeah.
to be immobile. You don't know what it means to be possible paralyzed for the rest of your life. You
Right.
don't know what it means to not being able to walk the same way that you used to walk, or to run the same way that you used to run, or even to jump.
Mm-hmm.
So all that was something that it's almost good in a way to
Mm-hmm.
happen at 11
Okay.
rather than to happen at 21 or
Yeah.
31, when you have a lot going on, a lot more going on in your life.
Yes. Makes sense. Makes sense. Not that we want it to happen to anybody, of course, but
We don't choose what
no,
happened to us.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
But so your parents then were they there? Just did they explain to you right then and there, or did they say, "Well, you had an accident and"?
Yeah. So they went through and explained to me that, you were coming off the school and this car hit you and we had to take you to the hospital. There was a taxi. It was a taxi that was a hit and run. So it
Oh,
was driving very fast towards you and there's no way that you could get out. But, like all these people around you, they were like trying to tell you to stop, stop,
mm,
stop. But, it was too late. By the time it hit you to the time that you were in the ground, basically there's no way that you can escape this.
mm-hmm,
This is what happened, and here we are. This is what's going on. So we're going to take you home, and you're going to be in this position. You're going to be trapped for
mm-hmm.
the next 3 months until your doctor says that you're okay to come back and do go through that rehab. So
Okay.
for that 3 months, I remember my parents would set a bed. We had a bed. They set up a bed in the middle of the living room, and so I spent basically 3 months after the car accident in the living room watching TV, reading book, no
Mm-hmm.
school. Oh yay!
So there is some positives that come from it.
Yeah, from for 11 years old mine,
Yeah.
that was something great. I look
Yeah.
forward to it. No more school for three
Yeah.
months. And I did get bored because remember, I was
True.
really good student, right? So I'm
Yes.
like always participating. I love schoolwork. I go to school early. But for that 3 months, first I was excited, and then it turns into, what do I do with myself?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And unfortunately, Butler's Babble wasn't around then for you to watch. So,
Exactly. So
so
so I read a lot of books, I watched a lot of television,
yeah.
and which really cultivated that storyteller in me. How to tell story, how to tell great story, and what work, what doesn't work. Oh my god, that show sucks. This book is too boring.
Now, when you were in the hospital and you woke up and everything, did the doctors at the time know the severity of your injuries, or were they still? It was still kind of a mystery of what was going to happen with your life, or you're going to walk again. Did they know at that time, or were they were saying like they just have to wait until they get more clues, or how did that
they
work?
were they were just waiting to get more clues, and so they basically, and lucky for me, the car accident happened around, in the hospital there's a internship. So
Mm,
the doctor who took care of me was an intern, so he decided, just wrap me up, send me home, and just let the bone heal. But my bone didn't heal, and so I end up going back to the rehab hospital and having gone through multiple surgery, and that involves going in and out of the surgery room 13 times.
oh,
13
jeez.
times, and I have 13 scars on my leg. By the time I got to the point where they can remove the the cast away from my body, I had to learn how to walk. I had
Okay.
to use two crutches. I had to use a wheelchair for quite a long time, so I know all the tricks of how to operate a wheelchair. I even went onto a race in wheelchair.
Whoa! Look at that.
I'm very competitive.
I can see that.
Now I think of it, I'm very competitive. Even in a wheelchair, I want to be in a competition.
Yeah.
So I started to use wheelchair for a long period of time, and then
Hmm.
that progressed into walking with the crutches, learning how to
Hmm.
walk the crutches.
Okay.
They gave me a pair of metal brace to wear. When I got discharged from the hospital, um, my doctor basically said, because you're still growing, we don't want your weight to impact your growth on your bone. So wear these until you finish, and to like at least 18 years old when you stop growing. So
Hmm.
I had to wear that ugly pair of metal brace until supposedly till 18.
Oh.
But me being rebellion, being
Yeah.
competitive, I don't want to look that way. Like
Hmm.
little mind of me thinking I
Yep.
want to look pretty. And so I decided at 16, this is after I came to America,
Hmm.
that I wanted to remove it. I'm going to remove it. I'm not going to wear it. I want to look pretty. I want to be able to wear a mini dress. The only problem is I still have the scars.
Hmm.
I have
Yeah.
all these scars on my legs.
That's true.
So in the summertime, what I would do is I would wear these stockings, no matter how hot it is. I
Okay.
would wear the stocking to cover on my scars. I would wear baggy shirts to
Okay.
cover my upper body
Yep.
to my waist so that people don't see my scar. So I did everything possible to become invisible.
Okay. So how
And
did
and you
this affect? And you're saying you're back in America by this time?
yeah, so I when I came to America I was 15.
Hmm.
And I didn't speak English. The fact that we're having a conversation in English, that's like huge progress. My milestone. That's my one of my milestone in life.
That's a big milestone.
Yeah. And so I was learning how to speak English, learning how to walk properly, and learning to be accepted into
Hmm.
the high school environment that we live in. And there's a lot of peer pressure. It's not
Definitely.
easy. It's not easy to be a teenager.
No. And if I'm not mistaken, you moved to New York, did you not, from Taiwan?
Yeah, so we
Which
first
is
went to
not, that's a tough area too.
Yeah, see, people in New York are very competitive. Like
Yep.
they either have time for you or they don't,
Yep.
right? And so I'm trying to adjust to that culture shock, to all the environmental changes, and on top of it, I was coming off and learning the peer pressure that one would experience as a teenager. When I step onto a bus, I remember one of the day I was on a bus, and there was a girl who's sitting down, and I
Hmm.
was trying to get hold because it's a full bus. Everybody were coming home, and it was a full bus, so I was trying to grab the handle next to her seat, and she pushed away my hand, and the look, I could never forget the look that she gave me in her eyes. It was almost saying to me that, don't touch me, don't come near me, you look weird.
Really? Yeah.
And I was 16.
Hmm.
I felt hurt.
Yeah.
I felt I didn't belong, number one. I was already struggling to be understood.
Hmm.
I didn't get that.
No.
So I had nowhere to turn. I didn't
Big
know anybody.
big culture shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you're trying to go do all this stuff. You're in a new place that you don't know anybody, you don't speak the language, and you're meeting people like that. It doesn't give you a good first impression on living in North America
Nope.
or the
And,
United States.
and I look very different. And,
Yeah.
because you remember I have to walk with crutches, I have the bracelet on, and I was 16, but I was only 4 feet 4 inches. I
Hmm.
have not grown since then. Four
Yeah.
feet 4 inches up
So
until
because of
this
the
day.
accident, they say you'll always stay at least 4 feet
Hmm.
4 inches.
Hmm.
Okay.
It must have affected my growth play,
Yeah.
or whatever that we did during the surgery. It impacted my growth, so I was never able to grow
Okay.
tall enough, and that was something that's also, I had a lot of judgment about myself, the way that I
Hmm.
look.
Yeah.
So it's always been very challenging
Hmm.
to have to look back and
Yeah.
thinking that, where do I belong? Where can I stand?
Yeah.
Where is there a place for me to
Yeah.
stand?
So I'm sure you went through a big depression going through your teens there, because that's a big time when people are just trying to discover who they are. And so how did you start dealing with that depression?
I think that was just the beginning of that
Okay.
depression. And one of the opening intro that you used was getting out of the rug, right?
Hmm.
For most of us, we can get out of the rug.
Hmm.
And for me, what am I going to get out of?
Yeah.
This is a physical trap
Yeah.
I'm in. There's nothing to get out of.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I think the severity of that depression went into adulthood, go
Hmm.
into my relationship. It show up in my relationship, how I see myself in front of another person, how I see myself interacting with another person. That becomes more dramatic, because now here I am. I'm trying to find a place where I belong,
Hmm.
but I don't have that sense of belonging. I can't
Yeah.
get out of this body.
Hmm.
So one of the things you talked about, sci-fi
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
I love watching sci-fi, and I always imagine myself as one of those aliens who flew in into Earth
Hmm.
and were looking for a body, a good fit body
Yeah.
to become, like, to
Yeah. Sort of
invest,
take
right?
over and
To
be
take
in.
over.
Yes. Use as a host.
And I, for whatever reason, chose the wrong body to host.
Mm. And I can see as 16 years old, 17, how you would feel that way. And especially now, when you were at this point, you're going to school, were you in a special school because you were from like another country, not just learning the language? You wouldn't be put in a normal public school. You'd probably, or you could be in a public school, but in a separate class, I guess, to learn English as a second language or something like that.
So interesting how you asked the question, because my mom, actually, remember, my mom is a stay-home mom, and she
Hmm.
was a very strong, independent woman. So
I
when
can
we came
tell if she's anything like you, I can tell.
so when we were when we came to America, we were going to the school. We went to public school. I went to public school.
Yeah.
But when I got to public school and wanting talking to the counselor saw my situation. He saw
Hmm.
how I look, and the first thing that he said was, "Oh, she needs to go to the special ed school.
Hmm.
She needs to be in the special ed." And my aunt, who was here for a while, for a long time, and she's
Yeah.
like, "No, no, no, but she's very intelligent. She's doing great in school. She doesn't belong in the special ed." Because most
Yeah.
people think of special ed thinking, there's like learning
They're a little,
disability.
yeah,
There's learn,
exactly. A little
yeah,
slower.
a little slower. But I'm like, I'm probably the quite opposite. I'm
Yeah.
great in doing math. I'm like advanced math,
Exactly.
and
You're
coming
probably
off from
smarter than half the kids in that
Asia.
school.
You're talking about doing algebra. I can do
Yeah.
algebra, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. You
And
just had
so,
the physical ailment. That was it.
right, I just look
Yeah.
different compared to other kids, but I don't belong in special ed. So when my mom got the translation through my aunt, she threw a fit right there in in the counselor's office. She's like, "There's no way she's going to the special ed. She doesn't
Yeah.
belong in special ed. I want her in your public school, and you
Yeah.
are going to get her in right now." So
Yeah.
she insisted, and she fought for me.
Yeah.
Good for my mom, she fought for me, and otherwise I would be placed into the special ed school.
Yeah. Now, before you came over to America, when you were still in Taiwan, maybe that last year or so, did you know you guys were coming to America ahead of time where you could take some English over there, or you just got up and left?
We just I pretty much just been told that, hey, we're going to America and say goodbye to your friend, we're gonna
Okay.
leave, and that was it. We pack up our bag and the whole family moved. And it wasn't like a choice. It was a choice made for me.
Okay. And
Yeah,
this
for
is
all of
back
us.
in what, the late 80s, I guess, early
It was
90s?
we came to America when we were it was 1989. I still remember
1989.
the
Okay.
years.
Yeah. So 1989. So
The
you're going
89,
through
the hair, the
yeah.
hair, the
Oh,
big
I
style.
had it. Now I have none, but I was in the 80s hair bands and stuff, so I know the area. Yeah. And then so from 89 to roughly about 93 or so, you're going through high school in a school that everybody's speaking a language you don't even speak. You got this physical ailment, you don't feel comfortable with yourself, no matter comfortable around other people. Were you made fun of by these people, or did they just sort of shy away from you and just didn't want anything to do with you, or were they afraid, maybe like I don't know what to say, right? Because sometimes that's all it is too. It's something that they don't understand it and they're just afraid to be around or say the wrong thing.
I think it's a combination of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right on that point where, they may be afraid. And a lot of people, this is something that I have learned afterwards, that a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are afraid because they don't know how to react to a situation that is different. And
Mm-hmm.
so the way that we respond to something that is different, something that's foreign, something that is unknown, we shy away from them, or there's that spark of curiosity that we wanted to learn more
Mm-hmm.
about, oh, what's going on with that person. But, we don't want to offend them. Right.
Yes.
So they don't come off and say, oh, what's wrong with you? Or they don't come off, hey, I know this may sound a little uncomfortable, but do you mind sharing with us, what the story is? And so there's not a whole lot of that conversation going on because people
Mm-hmm.
are afraid of what they are going to find out, or they don't know what they're going to find out, so they don't
Yes.
they don't say it, but they gave you the look.
Yeah.
And to me, the look is probably more hurtful than the
Right.
words that I have heard.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not it's not what you said,
Yeah.
it's how you said it.
Yes. I
Right.
agree. And I'm sure you got a lot of people that were like, "Oh, what is she doing here? She shouldn't be here. She should be somewhere else," and things like that. And like you said, your mom heard that and she threw a fit, and I would have too. I mean, if that was said to my daughter, because when you're very intelligent like that, so I've got a physical ailment, I can still do it. Now, how did you work your way through high school then? Obviously, you had to learn the language, of course, and I'm sure living in the town and I'm surprised you didn't pick up a New York accent, but I'm just kidding. But living
I
in New
probably
York,
still do. I have the New York attitude.
you do. So but you still have to get through. Now, I guess 16. So you're probably what, grade 11 at that thing, grade 10 when you first went there.
I was grade nine.
Okay,
Ninth
grade 9.
grade, I went to high school, ninth grade, and then moving into out of high school. So I didn't actually learn how to navigate and conquer high school until much later. So what I did in high school was I finally was able to find a tribe
Mm-hmm.
where these friends, we speak the same language. So I hung out with a lot of Mandarin or Chinese speaking friends.
Okay. Yep.
We form our little group, we have our little tribe, because there's some commonality that I could
Yes.
find, I could see myself in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this group going on that got me through 10th grade and 11th grade, and finally graduating from high school, going
Mm-hmm.
into college. And when I got into college, that's like a whole different new game. That was like, oh my gosh, now I don't have any friends, and now I had to start fresh again.
Yeah.
And so that was another obstacles I had to go through to learn how to navigate through freshman year.
Exactly. And what did you go in college for? What course did you take?
I wanted to be a pre-med. I want to
Okay.
be a doctor. I had this image of me wearing a doctor's jacket, white coat,
Mm-hmm.
and I am going to someday being able to, make more money being a
Mm-hmm.
doctor.
Yeah.
So I was a pre-med major when I got in. I took all the science class, the biology. Although my freshman year totally sucked, I totally failed biology. That was a hard truth moment where I realized maybe I can't be a doctor.
Okay. So then what did you do from there? Did you decide to change class or like change course?
So remember I was telling you about algebra. So I'm really good
Yes.
with algebra.
Yeah.
I'm pretty advanced, and then so I decided to go into chemistry.
Okay.
So I
Ah.
graduated from college with a chemistry degree. I was also a biochem major. There's not a whole lot of biology because I don't know if you watch Pokemon, like Pokemon the cartoon, where they
No, I
have.
know a lot about it, but I've never watched it. My kids were never into it, so I never even got into it. So,
So I kind of imagine myself as a Pokemon trainer with all these organisms,
hmm
microbiology, all these names that I can't even pronounce. And I felt like this is what you do in biology. You're a Pokemon trainer. And I'm not good with that. Now, I'm not good with names. So don't give
no,
me those
exactly.
names.
No, exactly. So you go, you get through college, you do all that, and now are you still kind of still looking at yourself in a negative way? Are you getting past that a little bit? Have you grown at all at that time, or you're still struggling through a lot of it?
I'm still struggling through a lot of it because there's a lot of comparison. When we're talking about like going into college, there's a lot of stuff that you can do in college,
Oh
right?
yes,
Yes. And I couldn't have done any of it. Right,
yeah,
going to I went to a school that is known as a party school. So
okay,
every Thursday there's a party going on. People go to, what do you do during a party? You go dance, right?
yeah,
I couldn't dance. I was still walking with crutches, and even if I remove all the metal brace, I still couldn't do a lot of things that other people can do. I
hmm
can jump, I can like twist around and hop and things like that. So there's a lot of things I couldn't do in
hmm
college. So the only thing I could do is study.
okay,
I'm good with sitting down, studying, study hard, do
yeah,
my homework, do my project. So going from pre-med to biochem major and chemistry major, for a hot minute I thought I was going to be a chemist,
okay,
sitting at a bench, doing
hmm
the petri dish. That's
yeah,
not a problem, right? Something that doesn't require a lot of physical activity, I can
okay,
totally do that.
sure,
And so slowly I was able to find where I can shine, where
yeah,
I can use my superpower,
yeah,
that intelligence. I'm pretty smart, I consider
yeah,
myself pretty smart. So I can use that intelligence to use that superpower, and hopefully I would be able to like get a job when I graduate, and I don't have to live um in with my parents anymore. I can actually be on my own, move out of the like have a somewhat normal life.
hmm No, it makes sense. Totally makes sense.
I was navigating just through that.
Yes.
So every year in college, I kind of just did my curriculum, meeting all the requirement. I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of social life. I
Yep.
didn't do a lot of crazy stuff that most normal college students would do because
hmm
I couldn't be
Okay.
part of that
Yeah.
environment. I
Yeah.
did the bare minimum.
No, you did what you had to do to get through it.
Yep. Then moving into graduate school. So we're moving into graduate school where I started to, so I have a chemistry degree, and one of the job interview that I went right after college, I
hmm
had my resume, as biochem major, chemistry major. One of the first job that I went to was at Boeing 747,
Okay.
Boeing company.
Yes.
Yeah, I went in there because they have a position open as a chemistry major. They
Okay.
were looking for a manager. Here's me, four
hmm
feet 4 inches tall. I went to that interview, and the person I brought, that was this would tell you how much confidence I had about myself.
hmm
On that first job interview, I brought my mom. I
Okay.
asked my mom to come with me.
hmm
So my mom was sitting in the car waiting for me outside as I went into the interview.
Okay.
Walked in, all these guys from Boeing company,
Yes.
they're 6 feet tall,
Okay.
big, macho, buff guy
Yeah.
walking around, and I'm supposed to go in there and manage them
Yeah.
or
But you
lead
did. You
them.
went in for the interview though.
I did, but I didn't get the job.
Okay. But to me, that's just a big step right there. You went in there and you tried anyways.
but when I at the time when I had that experience, what I saw was the failure.
Mm-hmm.
What I saw was the fact that I didn't get the job. I wasn't good enough. I
Yeah.
didn't see it as the fact that, oh, I even show up to the interview
Yeah.
knowing that this is what I'm getting to.
Sure.
I didn't see that as an opportunity. I saw that as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came out of that interview, I knew I didn't get the job. So what I did was I started to think about what can I do with the rest of my life.
Okay.
And so with the chemistry major, I didn't want to repeat so many steps. So what I did was in graduate school, I decided to go into pharmacy.
Okay.
Pharmacy, I already took chemistry. I already do a lot of biochemistry. So it
Yeah.
was an easy door for me to just step
Sure.
into without having to do like redo a lot of things. So I
Yes.
went into graduate school to get my doctor's of pharmacy.
Okay.
And this is how I got myself with a doctor of pharmacy degree. Now I'm like a clinical pharmacist. I can actually sustain myself with and be independent. And that
Yes.
was my only goal, just to
Mm-hmm.
be independent. I don't need to rely on anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's amazing. And so we should be calling you Dr. Quay.
Yes. Now that I'm glad you brought that up because even that to call me Dr. Quay, it took me a lot of mindset to actually owning up
Yeah.
that recognition, owning
Mm-hmm.
up that title.
Yes.
Like when people say, "Oh, Dr. Quay," I'm thinking, is that me? Could that be me? Did
Yeah.
I accomplish this? So there's a lot of that negative self-talk that was still going
Mm-hmm.
on in my mind, thinking that I would never be a doctor. I don't
Mm-hmm.
call me doctor, call me Michelle.
Yes, exactly. So you're this is probably what, late 90s by this time.
Yeah.
So you've went from like 19, I guess what, 85 roughly when you had the accident.
Mhm.
I'm guessing. I'm just trying to match the numbers up to late 90s. You're looking like 15 years now that you've been feeling about yourself, negativity, down, depression, anxiety, I'm sure, when you go into public places. And what are people going to think about me? What are they saying about me behind my back? I mean, that's things that's going to play on anybody, no matter
Yeah.
whether you have a default or not. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just down on themselves and depressed on themselves for any little reason and thinking they probably think I'm stupid or something like that. So, how did you be able to, when is it finally getting to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm not going to let this hinder me for the rest of my life. I'm here. I'm still rocking and I'm going to make my life the best it can be. When did the little switch go off?
When I was 40. It didn't happen until
Okay.
I was 40. I
Mm,
went that year, I got a tattoo. I went out one day and I sneak into one of the tattoo parlor my friend had told me, and I got a tattoo. And from that tattoo, and it's a tattoo of a butterfly.
mm-hmm.
I don't know what got into me. I was really drawn to the design of the butterfly, and I was
Okay.
really drawn to all the changes that was about to come. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I remember I was 40 when all these like things like change started to happen. When I was 40, I woke up one day, and I say to myself, Michelle, you spend the last 40 years playing small, feeling small, and having all these like plots, constant storyline that's going on in your mind. How much longer can you do this? Like, do you want to do this for the next 40 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're looking at a lifespan of 80 years, you just wasted 40 years thinking and playing small.
Mm-hmm.
How much longer do you want to do that? And one of the story that I was sharing just the other day is about how I got into the coaching journey, how the beginning of my coaching journey is
Mm-hmm.
actually from that very same feeling of playing small. And one thing that I noticed was that I was wearing a white t-shirt, and I noticed that there's constant stain that was on my t-shirt, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
Mm,
And so one day I sat in the car, I got out of the car, and looked down, there was that stain again. So I'm like, I gotta find out, how did it get there? So I
mm-hmm.
sat back into my car and I looked down, and there it was. My steering wheel was rubbing against my tummy. And that's how big I got by just neglecting to
Okay.
take care of myself.
Yes.
And so here I am, I'm stuck because I don't run, I don't know how to go to the gym, never operate a machine,
Mm-hmm.
equipment inside the gym. So how do I actually start losing weight? And all I wanted was just losing weight. I want my abs. And I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at a lot of like Instagram beautiful pictures, people like going to the gym, lifting
Yeah.
weights, and they have this amazing body.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I have? I have nothing. So that kind of motivated me, and it kind of almost got me angry to the point where, well, there's got to be something I can
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I went to a store and I picked up one of those Pilates ball. I brought it home and I
Okay.
started using the Pilates ball. I went onto YouTube and I searched Pilates ball limited mobility, and then there's like a whole list of all these tutorial that start showing up on how to use a Pilates ball for someone who has limited mobility. So I started learning that for a week, 2 weeks, watching my diet. So I saw my weight start dropping. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to take it to the next level because, those of us who's going on through that weight loss journey, we know that at some point your weight is going to plateau if
Yep.
you don't increase your activity or burning off, growing your muscle. And so something I researched, okay, so I got to build my muscle. How do I do that? I got to go to the gym. Next thing you know, I hire a personal trainer to work with me. And so we start working up and bodybuilding and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
healthier weight, healthier diet. And then my I started to hear that my friend are going on to this amazing trip
Mm-hmm.
to Machu Picchu. And there I'm like, oh, that would be an amazing trip to be on.
Yeah.
And then I coming home with all these beautiful stories, how amazing it is, their experience. I'm like, oh, I only wish I could go. And I'm like, we don't just want to wish. We don't want to just sit there and wish. We
Mm-hmm.
want to get to it.
Yes.
So I went to the gym one day and I told my personal trainer, I said, look, I know we've been working for a while and there's this dream, this goal that I have within me. Can you help me accomplish it? And then he's like, okay, what is it? I said, I wanted to go hike. And he said, like, where do you want to hike? Like the mountain here? That's pretty incredible. I'm like, no, I want to go to one of the wonders of the world, Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
His jaw dropped. He's like, where? Where?
That's right.
Machu Picchu. So we started to work out.
Okay.
He started to train me. We
Yep.
did a lot of conditioning training, strength training, and every Saturday, every Sunday, I would go hike. My first time going to the mountain to hike with my two crutches. I didn't tell anybody. So I
Mm-hmm.
had my backpack, my two crutches. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, just a walk in the park, right?
Yep.
Nope. Little did I know when I come down, right? I was looking off the side on the cliff. I'm like, holy crap! If I
Yep.
were to drop right now, no one's gonna know that I was there.
Exactly.
No one's gonna know that I was there.
Yep.
Uh, so that same year in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to book myself a ticket, flew myself to
To Peru.
Peru, Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So you get there, and so how does that work? Do they have, I guess, tour guides that take the people up there, or is it a whole group they take up, or you just go up on your own leisure, or can you do both, either or?
You can do both. You can do either or.
Yeah, okay.
So for me, I chose to have a group of people
Mm-hmm.
to go with, and I don't know them initially. So these are the people that they collected from all over the world. So I met
Yes.
friends from Australia. I met friends from UK. Like pretty much, basically everyone who's on that team, on
Yep.
that group, came from all over the world.
Okay.
And I was the only one from US. I was the
Okay.
only one that I was going. I went alone. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any friends to go with. And at that point, I felt like I was never going to belong anywhere. So I kind of started to do things on my own anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I decided to go alone. But I was able to like meet all these friends from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still in contact even till this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Ashley, I think Ashley, just to give her a shout out. She's actually having baby this year. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah.
But
So it's
so
a it's been a very surreal
Hmm.
experience knowing that, oh, I can actually be part of something.
Yes. And how long does it take to get to the top?
It took 4 days altogether.
Okay.
But since it is at a higher altitude, you do have to go into Cusco ahead of time to
Okay.
acclimate to the high altitude.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
the whole entire trip, I had high altitude syndrome,
Hmm.
and I was experiencing a lot of like these stomach issues, and I was throwing up. And 2 days before my actual hike, I check into an infirmary, checking their local hospital
Oh.
because I was it was so bad that I couldn't hold anything, and I
Okay.
was experiencing dehydration. I had to check myself into the hospital, and the doctor had to give me antivirals and give me some fluids to replenish my dehydration. I that same night, I remember I was talking to the doctor there.
Hmm.
I said, "Listen, I need you to do whatever you can to get
Yeah.
me out of here because I came to your country to
Yeah.
hike, and there's no way that I am going back without this hike. It'll
Yeah.
be too embarrassing to
Yeah.
go back without this hike."
Yeah.
So she discharged me the day after, and
Okay.
following day, I went on to a 4 day hike.
Okay.
Each day we hike about 8 to 10 hours,
Okay.
and each day we hike about 8 to 10 miles,
Mm. All
um,
uphill.
all uphills. There's a lot of stairs to climb, and we're
Hmm.
not talking about little tiny stairs. We're talking about like big steps. Some of these
Yeah.
steps are really big. I'm only 4 feet 4 inches tall, so in order for
Yeah.
me to get onto the stairs, I have to put down my crutches, get on my hands and knees, and
Yeah.
climb up each stairs
And we
and
got a
pick
video
up and
we'll show in a
repeat.
second to show people that too. I get emotional. I've watched it 3 times already, and I've already been emotional all each time. So it's going to be amazing. But now I remember you telling me it's not in the video, but I remember you telling me last time we talked about
Mhm.
what your instructor said to you when you got to at least the one day, I guess it was, where you got to the main level and he came to you, and it was the donkey story. If you want to reiterate that story, because I think it's very motivational, because to me it showed your strength.
Yeah, so it was first day. The first day that we were on the hike, I we had about 10 people on the in the group.
Yeah.
And I was the soloist, the very last person in that group. And so the whole entire way as I'm walking and hiking, what I could see wasn't the beautiful sight. All I could see was the donkey's back.
Hmm.
The donkey was walking faster than I was. I the donkey was always ahead of me,
Hmm.
and I couldn't walk slow. I couldn't walk faster than the donkey.
Hmm.
I was the slowest. I was. We both had 4 legs. You know,
Hmm.
donkey had 4 legs. I had
Yeah.
4 legs. I was using two crutches, and then so I have 4 legs. But there's no way that I can compete with the donkey. I need to
Hmm.
be faster than the donkey, and that's what my tour leader has sat me down on that very first night inside the tent.
Hmm.
And he said, "Michelle, I know this is something that you want to do, but you do realize that in order to finish the second day, it is going to be toughest. It's going to be the highest. You're going to have to walk faster than the donkey."
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Like, this is as fast as I could go.
Yeah.
This is as hard as I can push.
Yeah.
How do I walk faster than the donkey?
Hmm.
And so I think the moral to that story is that sometimes you walk on your own pace.
Yeah.
You do what you can without giving up.
Yeah. Because I think you even told me that he basically said you got two options. You can either turn around and go back, or you can walk faster than a donkey. And you said right away in your mind, you're like, I'm going faster than a donkey, because you weren't going to let that stop you.
No, it wasn't a choice anymore. It was
Hmm.
I went to Peru having that intention that this is going to be different. I'm
Hmm.
going to prove to myself and to others that I am capable of doing things.
Yeah.
I am capable of whatever challenge that's in front of me, and I can do it just as good as you are,
Exactly.
if not better.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was being set in that tent, asked to make a life changing decisions, do you want to go back or do you want to keep moving forward? my there was the only choice that I see was to keep moving forward,
Yeah.
because going back means that I'm going to have to feel small, look small, feel invisible. That was not my option. It was not in my option anymore.
Nope. So why don't I play that little excerpt from the video of you getting to the top there, and it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. So I'm gonna bring that in, and I'm gonna let everybody see that, and we'll go from there. Let's try that.
Come on, Michelle. You can do it.
Let's do it again, Michelle. Vamos.
Come on,
Okay.
Michelle.
Do it tomorrow.
Next week we're gonna back. After this point came our minutes to get Sangay and to see Machu Picchu, eh?
Can I have 2 lunch today?
Two pisco sours.
Yes.
Michelle, smile. Good. Good job. Michelle, be- before to arrive there,
Yeah.
I wanna give you a huge.
You've been such a great help.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah. You are my friend now.
You are. I want to see you being a tour guide next year, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm filming.
Oh, you're filming? Thank you.
Come on.
Okay.
Take your seat.
This sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Bravo, Michelle.
Oh my God. I made it. We all made it.
Well done. Everything's covered.
So that is amazing. Like, if that doesn't show strength from somebody, then I don't know what does. If that doesn't motivate people, inspire them to show that no matter where you are in life, if you can do something like that, they can do what they need to do too. That's the way I look. I got goosebumps right now just watching that, especially all the cheering at the end there. It just gives me goosebumps. I'm so proud of you for doing that.
I'm getting a little teary because I don't believe that we came to this earth or we're in this life by ourselves.
Hmm.
And so, one of the lessons that I have learned is that you always want to look around you. You have superpower. Like right now, you're sitting with your superpower, and your superpower is going to help someone else. So, no matter where you are right now, no matter how you think about yourself, that superpower is going to help another person. And you know, the fact that one of the last comment that I made in that video was, we made it. And I believe that we come together using each of our own superpower
Mm-hmm.
to lift each other up. So I could never have done it without the people who was passing me by, giving me thumbs up. They were passing me by to cheer me on. I could never have done it without their help. They gave
Mm-hmm.
me their superpower.
No, I agree with you totally. And we've got like John Thoreau saying, "Well done, Michelle. Your positive attitude on things is amazing. Love how you just strive to keep moving forward." Um, you just inspire so many people. My friend Leah, uh, she's like, "You made it, Michelle," and it's just that whole positiveness that people see. Um, it's just amazing. It inspires me. I've had some tragedies in my life that actually made me go and be who I am today. And so I know that sometimes it is something negative that causes that positive spin on things. And it's unfortunate that sometimes we do have to go through those. Um, but I know we're at the hour mark. I don't mind going a little bit past if you're okay and the people are watching are okay. I'm not going to go too far, but I mean, I could not go without showing that video. And if people want to see it, some said there was no sound. I think I put the have sound on there, and I heard the sound on it. So hopefully, if you didn't hear the sound, you can go to Michelle's um, YouTube page or even your website. Even I'm sure you have it on there too, and they can watch it on the website. And
Yes.
maybe you can put it in. Maybe I'll put the link in there that you sent me earlier, that people can go watch it, because it's so there's actually more to it, because I cut it the middle or the beginning part there, where you were talking to everybody afterwards, but you're just so inspiring. And so now that you've done all that, like I look at some of the stuff here that you've done, like I'm looking at all the speaking engagements you do, and your past area director at Toastmasters International, which is probably just up your alley, because anybody who knows Toastmasters, I was never in Toastmasters, but I have a couple friends that are in Toastmasters. It's similar to my business group that I'm in, where
Yeah.
you have to be able to get in front of people and speak. And then I was watching some of your videos on YouTube where you're up doing speaking engagements in front of tons of people and just trying to motivate people to get them out of that little thing and to show them that they can do whatever they want to do. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're into nowadays, and if you have anything you want to plug, by all means, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you really stood out for me on this conversation is that we started off by talking about how I was as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being on the stage. I enjoy being visible. It was just part of my personality of who I am. And going through that tragic moment, going through that transformation, it made me felt I wasn't using my that superpower that I had. I wasn't using that ability of, I'm really good with engaging the audience, being public speaker, being there to help others to realize their strength. And I think going through that journey was just so that I can really get down to understanding what people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for me to become who I am today, the accident had to have happened,
Okay.
and it happened for a reason. And that reason was to recognize that this is my true gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift that was given to me, that I can use that speaking, use this empowerment gift to spread the message, to tell people that, hey, you know, sometimes we all get stuck in that moment where we
Mm-hmm.
don't think that there's a way out. So, no matter where you are right now, if you're feeling that there's no way out, then perhaps have a different way of thinking it. Or
Mm-hmm.
perhaps remember my story, what I have just told you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that we can get out. But
Yes.
for me, it was not something that I could get out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trapped in this body forever.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
luckily
what do
not
you want
trapped
to
in
do?
that mind.
Exactly. So, how do you use this, what you have,
Mm-hmm.
as an opportunity to see what you can do?
That's
How
right.
can you do it better? What can you do today to make it better? You don't have to be perfect, but what can you do to make it better? And so when I got into Toastmasters, it was like, oh wow, I get to speak again. I get to speak, and I get to be in front of the audience. I get to talk to more people. And I love your podcast name is Babble. I
Mhm.
love to babble. I love
Yep.
to chatter. I'm a chatterbox. I can
Yep.
go on for hours. And so when I learned that I could use my public speaking skills to spread the message, to empower more people, I
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh, this is home.
Yes.
It felt like home.
So did Toastmasters push you into creating Elevate Life Coaching?
It No, actually I created Elevate Life Coaching first.
Okay.
And then when I realized that I need to be in front of more people, I need to have a better way of speaking. Because I don't know if you recognize, like you're a podcast host, so you probably listen to a lot of radio, and a
Mhm.
lot of guests they would go like, so, and they start every single sentence with so, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about this.
Exactly.
And so you don't I didn't want myself to be seen that way or to be heard that way, because it's a little distracting. I want to be perceived as, oh my gosh, she's very fluent, she's very fluid with her
Mhm.
speech. So I needed to like really advance my skills as a speaker. So I went into Toastmasters,
Mhm.
and really helped. And now, I'm sitting in my car and counting how many so and n other speakers are using. It's like a way of reminding myself these are the things. Remember to pause. Remember how to talk. And so it's really a way to advance my own skills in in um, in my coaching skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It will.
I do coaching and I do public speaking.
Yes, no, definitely. And Toastmasters, from what I know, like one of my guests I had, my second guest of our very second episode was a friend, Rob Provence, a photographer out of Sudbury, Ontario. And him and his daughter are very big advocates of Toastmasters. And even my third guest, actually, I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch with Candace Kirkbride. She's a big Toastmaster person too. So it does help a lot of people. If you're not the type of person that can get in front of people, and that they do help mold you in that way, so that you have no problem just stand in front and say whatever's on your mind. My business group, I have a group called BNI, which is globally also Business Networking
Yeah.
International. Same thing. You have to get up in front of all these other businesses that are in your group, and we have like right now I think 33. So I have to get up in front of 32 other people and explain what a good referral for my business is, and what works for my business, and what I want them to try and find for me. And you got to be able to speak, and you got to be not nervous, and get up there, and you only get 60 seconds to do it. I don't know about Toastmasters, but here we only get 60 seconds to say what we got to say. So you got to be to the point and straight on. So I think it's amazing what you're doing for everybody. I have to buy. This is the first time I've actually did an interview with somebody who wrote a book, and I haven't had a chance to read the book yet. So I have to get a book, but I want to get a signed copy from the author, of course. So I
I
want to
will
buy it.
definitely send a copy out to you.
No, and I will pay for it, of course. But I want to get a signed copy, and but I'm dying to read it. I think you're an amazing young lady. I think you have so much life left in you, and I think anybody to listen to your story, there's not one person on this planet that can listen to it and look at themselves and say, yeah, but that was her. That has nothing to do with me. I mean, you can use anything that you've talked about today and put it into their life and make their life better. There's no reason why you can't. If
Yeah.
you can do it, anybody can do it as well. And the same thing with me. There's things that I do that it's like, if I could do it, anybody can do it. So you just got to put yourself out there. Um,
Yeah.
how do you look at yourself nowadays?
I see myself this magician. I'm the alchemist of making things happen. You give me something that needs to be done. I'll turn it around and I'll just make it happen. And I think this is so true, especially
Mhm.
when I work with my clients. With the coaching clients, I work with a lot of like women coaches, and they give me an idea or they share a thought with me, and I can just turn it like a mile away train. I'm like
Mhm.
running a mile down. They're like, Michelle, how did you do that? How did you come up with this brilliant idea?
That's
And I think
awesome.
I'm just a magician.
No, and I think that's great. You're out of California now, right? You're not in New York anymore. You're out of California. How long have you been in California?
Almost 18 years.
Oh, okay.
hmm This
So,
is home now. This is definitely home. We
yeah,
had some hot weather, so
yeah. I miss LA. I've been there many times when I was a photographer for bodybuilding magazines and that, so I miss it down there. And is your family with you? Or are they still in New York? Or
my family are all here.
okay,
My parents live with me right now. They're traveling.
mm,
And my siblings are all in California now. My sister lives in NorCal.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and when next time when you come to California, make sure we can train together.
Oh,
You know,
definitely. You
I
can
can,
whip me into shape. I keep telling
like
everybody
I
I
said,
got
I'm a
the
competitive person.
well, like I tell everybody, I've got the dad bod going on here. I just turned 50 this year, and I got the dad bod going. Although, like I tell everybody, I don't call it a dad bod. I call it a father figure. So,
Mm.
where can people find you? I got Instagram here. You have the Elevate Life Coach Instagram. You're on Facebook. You have a website. Why don't you plug something? Let people know how they can get a hold of you.
So basically, going to my website is probably the best way to find me, elevatelifecoaching.org. I'm basically everywhere. So no matter where you are, typing my name in Google, you'll be able to find me.
No, exactly. And if you get a chance, go find Michelle Kuei's YouTube page. There's a lot of stuff she's got on there with her life coaching. There's a lot of podcasts you have on there. I think you run your own podcast, if I'm not mistaken. It looked like it on there, anyways. I'll have to watch some of those now. So
I
I'm
do.
glad.
It's called Make It Visible. I think we all have a voice, so make it visible.
I agree. So I'm gonna have to definitely watch some of your podcasts because I would love to learn more about you. And definitely the next time I'm in California, I'm gonna be looking you up, and we're gonna get together for sure.
We'll
And
have a gym moment, gym day.
a gym day. There
Yeah,
you
a gym
go.
day.
And then we'll go to a nice steakhouse or something.
Sure. We gotta feed our muscle, right? We gotta
That's
reward
right.
ourselves.
Exactly. So thanks everybody for coming to another episode of Butler's Babble, where we try to empower, inspire, and motivate you. And if Michelle hasn't motivated you, then go back and rewatch this again, because the replay is going to be on the YouTube page, by all means. And even if you're watching this on the replay, don't be afraid to ask some questions in there or write your comments, because just put hashtag replay and we'll get them, Michelle and I. And if there's a question in there, I'm sure Michelle will be happy to answer it. And reach out to her. She's an amazing young lady. Thank you for being here again, Michelle. I know we're taking time out of your schedule, and I learned a lot more, and I'm looking forward to reading your book. So I wish you nothing but happiness for whatever it is you do, and lots of success. And I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm having so much fun. I'm a chatterbox. No worries.
Not a problem. So am I. So until next time, everybody have a great life. Inspire other people, motivate, have empathy for people. And remember, if anybody asks, say the butler did it.